everyone, Cooking with Sue. Happy afternoon, almost noontime. And I was just about to spiralize some beets because this afternoon I'm going to be making a beet cabbage carrot slaw. And so I thought I would just go live since I haven't seen you guys for a bit. So we're going to take a couple carrots. You want to make sure that you're washing your carrots because you want the skins of your fruits and vegetables to be used in different ways. So what do I mean by that? I am making in the quick cooker here some broth for, you use chicken broth for a lot of different recipes. So in order to get the most nutrients, hang on, let me get my veggie peeler. In order to get the most nutrients in a soup, you want to not only take your chicken carcass, so this is my chicken that we had the other night, bones and all. You want to add 1/4 cup of white vinegar. That helps draw the nutrients out of the bone marrow and makes it more better flavor and more nutritious. Then you're going to toss a fresh lemon or some onion in there. It depends what kind of flavor you want. But then after you've washed your carrot, so I'm going to be spiralizing my carrot, but I'm going to put my carrot peels, I'm going to put all the ends of my celery. So like, when you are using your celery, like celery and peanut butter or something like that, or you're chopping celery for a dish, the end stalk of your celery, you usually don't do anything with it. So I freeze mine and then I stick it in my broth when I am making my soup. Also the ends of your broccoli or any vegetable that you want to use, you're going to stick it in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cover on, I'm going to turn it to soups and stews, and it's going to make a beautiful, thick, rich broth in about 30 minutes. So I don't have to boil it down all day long. And then what I'll do there is I'll let it cool and I'll pour it into quart-size Ziploc baggies. And then I'll freeze those. And then you can take those out and snip the baggie off of it and use it for a recipe. So like yesterday I needed 3 cups of chicken broth for my chicken risotto that I was cooking for a friend. And so I took the solid block of chicken broth that I had made and stuck it in here and turned it on for 4 minutes. So it came up to pressure cook for 4 minutes and it melted the block of chicken broth. You have to put a cup of water when you're using a pressure cooker to create the steam. So I dumped, excuse me, 1.5 cups of water in there. And then I used the chicken broth from that. And so I have a little bit of leftover, but I figured, I got another chicken. We'll just get that started for the next time. So I'll just freeze it every time I use a chicken or a whole chicken. I'm always making more broth. Just you use it so often in different types of recipes, and you can freeze it in snack bar sizes or you can freeze it in quart-size bags. It just depends how much you need for your recipe. I threw a bay leaf in here as well. I'll throw some garlic in here. You really want to use fresh herbs. Fresh herbs really make a big difference in your flavor. So maybe sometimes when I'm cooking, I'll use fresh rosemary or fresh thyme. And let me just get this done. And then the reason I'm wearing gloves today is because we're dealing with beets, right? And any of you guys know that when you deal with beets, your beets get you all red. So let's just, whoops, that's my tomato knife. Don't want that. I want my small paring knife. Here we go. I'm going to cut the beet greens off the beets because I'm going to be using that for a different recipe. For a stir fry we're going to be doing later tonight. And this is a new recipe I've never used before. So I pinned it on Pinterest. It's going to use, it says lemon zest and lemon juice, but I'm going to use orange zest and orange juice because I have fresh oranges from Florida that my friend Kristen Kenny's brother sends up from Florida every Christmas, and so we were there for Christmas Eve and we got some oranges to take home. So thank you, I think it's Darren, for the oranges. They were lovely. So we're on our last 2. I don't know if you can see them on the counter, but so I'm going to use that. It's going to use a little bit of rice vinegar. It's going to use a little fresh ginger. I have to go get more cabbage. I didn't realize that we used our cabbage for our stir fry the other night. So I think I'm going to get some green cabbage. Last time I was thinking that I was going to get the purple cabbage, but because I'm using beets in this recipe, that will be my color. What else goes in this recipe? Let's see. 2 teaspoons snipped chives, and as you can see behind me in the window, I bought some fresh green onions. I often will buy chives or green onions, and I just stick it in that tall vase with a little bit of water, and it'll last for a very long time, and it actually keeps growing. So if you don't snip it and use it, it gets so long it'll tip over, so you gotta stay on top of that. It's going to use a tablespoon of honey. I think Maureen's doing Whole30 because she was not using sugar or dairy, and I've done Whole30, so you can skip the honey if you don't want to use that as a sweetener. But if you are using sweeteners in your recipes, try using whole organic sweeteners such as local honey. Did you know that local honey helps you fight allergies? Because the bees are pollinating on trees that are local to your house. So those are the trees that you would most likely have allergic reaction to. So if you are struggling with seasonal allergies, it's important for you to buy local honey. Also, maple syrup is a good alternative to sugar. You really want to reduce the amount of sugar you eat. Hold on. We're going to compost that. And the reason you want to do that, I was watching a video the other day. Did you guys know that Go-Gurts used to be, I mean, obviously they're marketed towards kids, but they used to be marketed as a healthy snack for kids, and there's actually more sugar in a Go-Gurt than a cereal of sweetened like Cocoa Puffs. It's ridiculous. So read your labels, people. Read your labels. You got to know what you're eating. Okay, veggie spiralizer, gotta love this. Comes apart, easy cleaning, goes right into your dishwasher. You want to make sure that there is an arrow on the back and an arrow here, so it tells you how to line it up. You want to lift the plunger, and you want to pull out the spiralized blade. There's a blade that's already on here, which makes this long curly fry. Actually, let me do a carrot on that so you can see what that is, and we'll show you different elements. So you want to cut it to about 4 inches because that's about all it can hold, and we'll plunge it down. And when you go ahead, this is probably just going to break off in little chips because it's the carrot is small, so this is going to make nice little carrot like slices and chips. But when you're using something like a beet, it's going to make one long continuous like curly fry. So I'm going to actually be spiralizing these or making it into slaw. So to put the blade on, the pin blade, you put it in through the back. You want to make sure that the front of the blade stays down and doesn't lift up. That's what I'm doing with my finger. They do show you to put the food guard on it to hold it down, but I just use my finger. And then you're going to tighten it with the tightening screw right here on the edge. Oh, I dropped a piece of carrot for Gracie, and she's like, hey, what's that? And so then we're just going to go ahead and put a beet on here, push down, and I'll aim it so you guys can see. Ta-da! Look at that. Lovely. See how tall that is? So we will snip that so that nobody chokes on our beets. But you get nice long strands. Now, some people who use a spiralizer will call me and say, hey, it's breaking off in tiny little chips. What do I do? What am I doing wrong? Couple things. If your carrot or your zucchini or your cucumber is too skinny, it often will break off in little chips. If you are pushing too hard with the handle, it will also break off with little chips. You just want a consistent pressure, but it doesn't have to be really hard. And if you do it right, you get great noodles. So I did zucchini the other day, and we made a pesto sauce. I might do a marinara next, but we did pesto. Now you'll notice that I'm pulling little chips off of the spiralizer that ends each vegetable that I put on here, you can just dice those up and add it to your soup. I have a bunch of ends from my sweet potatoes that I was spiralizing the other day when I made the chicken sweet potato pad thai. And those are in my freezer in a Ziploc baggie. So when I make this soup, when I make a chicken soup, when I'm all done the soup, I will cut those little pieces into tiny cubes, and they'll be the same cubes as if I bought it from the store, because the cubes come off, or the chips come off at the same thickness every time. So it'll spiralize or dice up really well for soup, and it'll cook at the same time frame. So that's going to be kind of fun. So I'm actually just going to spiralize this. I have a 12:30 coaching call with one of my team members today, and a 1:15. So after that, then I'm going to run to the store and get my cabbage. So I'll post the finished product tonight, but I just wanted to show you the spiralizer, because spiralized beets, there's so many things you can do with this. So we're gonna, I put this in a breakfast stir fry too, to make like a hash. If you've never had a nice potato beet hash, it really adds a lot of sweetness to your morning hash browns, and this is a really great breakfast. Oh, you know what I'll do? Let me spiralize an onion, because in my opinion, this is the fastest way that you can slice an onion. Trust me, this is amazing. I love this. So we need a bigger knife to cut my top and bottom off. Now, when you are chopping or dicing an onion, we're all about eating healthy because it's January, right? But in order to sustain this past January, you need to find ways of doing things faster and easier, so that you're not constantly doing the prep work, because that's what people get tired of doing, is the prep work. So my suggestion is that if you're going to spiralize, like I only needed a little bit of onion this morning for my breakfast. I did kale, onion. I had roasted a couple of heads of garlic for a different recipe, and I used a little bit of that. And I used my end chips from my zucchini that I had spiralized to do zucchini pesto, and I diced those up into little squares, and I scrambled those all together, and then I added a handful of kale into it, and I had a couple eggs. So that was breakfast. But I needed a little bit of onion for it, so I used the leftover of an onion that I had. What you're going to do is you're going to put it on here, and I'm going to put this into a big Ziploc baggie when I'm done, so that I have it for cooking later. Watch, oh, I'm going to take the pin out. Watch how fast this will slice an onion. Ready? Done! That entire big red onion. So now I'm going to stick this whole thing into a baggie, and I'll use handfuls of it of different recipes that I'm going to be using for breakfast, for lunch, for sauteing. I mean, I have a filet mignon, so we'll probably do some onions and garlic with that. So fast and easy spiralizer. I think it's $82. The number is 2111. It's a great tool. I'll show you some other videos, and they're great healthy swap smarts for this coming year. Swapping a couple of zucchini instead of pasta, or adding it into your pasta for kind of sneaking it in with your kids. Put in spiralized zucchini the last 4 minutes of cooking into your regular spaghetti, and it'll add fiber and nutrients to it, and they won't even know they're getting extra veggies, and it'll twirl on your fork. So thanks for visiting with me. Make sure that you share my videos if you like them, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for cooking with Sue.